Hi, welcome to another BioDevils podcast. We're going to be talking about some Tormented Souls 2 gameplay. I'm joined with Mr. Brandel. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Batman.
Yeah, Brandon's voice is fucked for today, but I gotta give it to him. He at least wanted to show up for this, so props. But that being said, we recently had this gameplay drop for about, I think it was like 21 minutes total, something like that.
Waiting for something like that.
Yeah, so like a good portion of gameplay was shown off not too long ago for Tormented Souls. And just right off the bat, I want to like start off with just talking about like the visuals and the environments because like they look really good.
Yep.
I didn't know if you wanted to kind of chime in there here.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. It's definitely a huge improvement over the first game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if these guys got a bigger budget or it's just natural upgrades, whatever, during game development. I'm not sure how this stuff works. I'm not a game designer or developer,
Yeah.
right? But that being said, though, the quality of the environments is a step up from how it looked in the original game. That's saying a lot since the first game looked really good on its own.
Yeah, and I what I find really interesting too, by the way, because the original game was on Unity, and now this new game is on Unreal 5, and so
I was on Unity. That
yes,
explains the difference.
so like it's really interesting that they were able to keep that like same or like very similar like visual style to it, but still make it look even better than the previous game, I think.
Yeah, it looks unreal.
No pun intended, right? Yeah, but like yeah, I found it very interesting that they managed to like still maintain that style despite changing engines. Um, but also I really like how the first game we were in a a mansion that was converted into a hospital. Um, that had like very like cathedral-esque sort of designs to it, but for the most part it just felt very unique in its own right. And in this game, it kind of seems like they're still going for that, but pushing more of like the like gothic like architecture and stuff like that. It really looks cool. Like a lot of the environments have like these like stone walls and like chandeliers and candles and stuff like that, and it really just feels like you're in a very old-timey place, but a place that also should kind of feel familiar, if that makes sense.
That's definitely agree.
Mhm.
Yeah, what I appreciate by games like this is that I'm a sucker for like this old age gothic style. So if I see it, it's episode one. But for Tormented Souls with the engine change and the graphical updates, though, I feel like the vision becomes more alive now compared to how it looked in the first game.
Yeah, yeah, and I really also too like the lighting as well. Like, granted, lighting played a really big role in the first game as well, but like in this game, I feel like it plays an even bigger role because like now we have like windows that have like like god rays basically like coming through the windows and stuff like that, and it just really gives this game um, even more atmosphere, I think, than the first one. Not that the first one had like bad atmosphere or anything like that. It was really good in the first game as well, but this just takes it to another level, especially for devs who only worked on one previous game, right? It really goes
I
to show
was
how much they improved.
I will say though, like the lighting in the first game could have been honestly better,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not saying that in bad faith. It's just like, yeah, like a small team, we're gonna first game, whatever. No, perfectly fine. But compared to what they have now, I'm betting because of the engine change, they can do much more with the lighting and all that. So I'm happy to see that the lighting looks a lot more, I won't say realistic though, just more appetizing, more appealing.
Yeah, yeah,
Especially since, with the new, I guess, lights could go off at any given point and you gotta have candles and whatnot just to stay alive, like in the original game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Any source of light, you have to be in that source of light, otherwise you will die after a certain period of time. Which I wonder too if they'll add in like the trophy where like you're supposed to intentionally die in the dark for trophy runs, because I went out of my way to get the platinum in the first game, so it'll be fun to do that again with Tormented Souls 2, assuming that this is coming straight to, I think it is coming to console as well, if I remember right. Yeah, it is. But yeah, so like with the platinum run, like I'd be looking forward to that, and I'm sure that's probably going to be one of the trophies. Like, hey, go stand in the dark for a little bit and get yourself killed, because fuck you, right?
That was a trophy in the first game too, right?
Yes, yes. So like I think it's gonna be really nice, and also too I don't know if you noticed this too, but like the first moment, like, and we'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later, but like when they showed off the like first instance of like the lights going out, like they had like this sort of like kind of like I don't know if you would call it like a CRT sort of filter or whatever, but like there's definitely some kind of like static lines popping up when the lights first went out in that, and I thought that was kind of interesting, because I know that they had some effects in the previous game, but they were a little bit different from what this game showed.
I didn't notice it when I watched the footage, so I gotta check that out again.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe it's just the byproduct of the lighting going off, whatever. But I don't know. It could be just chromatic aberration. It's all
Chromatic aberration.
Chromatic
yeah.
aberration.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else too is really good looking. I think visuals too, just from like the character model for Caroline, and also just the enemy designs have also been stepped up too. Like enemies don't look very plastic like they did in the first one. And
no, the models look definitely better, but one thing I'm concerned about is more so the animations. It still look a little janky, fortunately.
Yeah, I did notice that a little bit when I rewatched the gameplay. I think there's some definite like things that they have to iron out, which, you know, to be fair, this game is coming out in like 2025, so I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing in this, like, dare I say, like early alpha footage is going to get ironed out by the time we get to release. But if not, hopefully that's something that you know, they do take feedback on and they do try to improve upon, so that way it's better than what it is currently.
Yep. Especially with that engine shift, I imagine like maybe they gotta work out some kinks on the side.
Mm-hmm. So one other thing too I want to like point out as well is that like the environments feel a little bit more varied as well, unlike the first game, because in the first game you were pretty much inside the entire time. You never went outside, and there were definitely like areas that were like boarded up or cut off, right? And so it seemed like that mansion slash hospital was much bigger from the like cinematic cutscene than the game actually like allows you to like travel through, right? And I'm kind of wondering too, like how varied are the areas gonna be, and you know, how much of that is gonna be like how much of it is going to be bigger than the previous game, right? Because like The previous game, well, you know, again, great game, great environments and stuff like that. I do feel like that intro cinematic kind of like leads you to believe that it's much bigger than what it really is, right? And I'm wondering how much of that is gonna impact the overall like visuals, you know, because we did go outside a little bit in this gameplay preview.
Yeah, what helps too again is also the art style.
Hmm.
Like seeing it having a bit more detail helps with the more varied locations you see. But the one spot that I am very impressed with and happy with is the clock tower. Unlike another game that came out a couple years ago, we actually get to explore a clock tower this time. So yay! But yeah, the clock tower is probably my favorite so far. My favorite new location that we got out of this. I'm not sure is this the same area, same map we're in, like the same one first game. If it's a different one, then yeah, like this is really nice. If it's the same one, then it got a facelift.
So to my understanding, based off of the information that is out there, this is supposed to be a different area. I think it's in a completely different part of the world too. And you know, the story is delving into Caroline trying to figure out what's causing her sister, who she, you know, spoiler if you didn't beat the first game and get the true ending or the cured ending, where after, you know, she goes back in time, pulls her sister out of the like videotape basically, and cures her, or cures the demonic version of her, right? They kind of lead into this thing that she might be getting sick, or she might be turning into the monster that was pursuing us in the first game. And you're basically just trying to figure out how to help your sister. From my understanding of the story synopsis that has pretty much been put out there. So it's definitely not the same location from the first game.
Alright. Wherever the hell we're at though, it looks nice.
Yeah.
Or dreadful, depending on you look at it.
Yeah, I definitely do like it. I think it's I really think it's a very interesting location. Like, and there were so many different areas they didn't go to in the preview. I'm just like, I want to go there. I saw like bits and pieces where I'm like, hey, like that looks like I could examine that, but they like clearly didn't want to do it because it might spoil something. And I'm just like, I just want to do it. I just want to give me the game now. I'll take it unpolished just so I could play it, you know?
Yeah, let us be beta testers, developers. If you listen, you know what? You can find them. You know, contact them. Do it.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it for some game coverage. Why not, right? But is there anything I didn't bring up with the visuals or environments that you wanted to talk about maybe before we move on to our next topic?
I'm not sure this count as a visual, but camera angles. I will admit, I know they're going for a more stylized, no angles and whatnot, but they look a little weird, even for my taste. No, I don't know. It could be just how disorienting they looking though. I think the first game has some of those, but yeah, it looks a little weird. I'm not saying it looks bad, but I don't know if I vibe with it right now. Maybe if I get hands on, maybe it won't bother me all that much. But from just watching it from a distance, you know, it looks weird.
Yeah, so there are definitely like a lot of those like Dutch angles, basically, if we're going by like cinematic terms.
Right.
I personally like that, but I can see how that's very like disorientating and stuff like that. I also really like that there are more dynamic cameras that follow the player now too. Like there were a couple in Tormented Souls 1, and there was one in the main hall pre-patch that they ended up patching out for some reason in favor of multiple static cameras. And I never really understood why, like if that was just causing like some kind of like performance issues or like something to like bug out with the game or what have you. But like it was just one of the few camera angles that was initially dynamic that they, for whatever reason, decided to get rid of, which I thought was kind of weird. But seeing as how Tormented Souls 2, they're kind of giving us more of these like very like uneasy camera angles on top of just dynamic cameras, I think it's a more interesting look. Also, because you were talking about where this game is taking place, it's taking place in like a Southern American town.
This is not the Midwest this time, you know. The last time that place got bombed.
Yeah, it's I don't know. Midwest seems like a very I don't know, typical survival horror location when you think about it, like because everybody wants to have their game set in the Midwest. Because, you know, Resident Evil.
Yeah, I guess. Quite frankly, I don't keep up with the locations. I just know that this place exists, and why am I here?
Yeah. Oh, actually, before we move on to the next point too, I did also want to talk a little bit about the visuals of the inventory system, because they did change those up a little bit. Like now the status, your health status is like where it shows like the X-ray of your chest. That's now color coded. I don't know if you noticed that at all.
Actually, no, I don't remember seeing it actually. That's cool. So it's like what RE does is like caution, great, and danger.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
okay, I see now. Yeah, it's green this time.
yeah, I thought that was a nice little change. Like it's a small change, right? But like it's neat that they added in those like little details, right?
Oh, it's better visual feedback. You can just look at the color and know immediately versus just looking at the words.
Yeah, I think so too.
I know that sounds weird, but you could literally just tell from a lot just from having color coded stuff what it is and what is not.
I think it's you know what I think it is? I think it's like a faster way to like process that information if you just see the color as opposed to try to read out the word, right? Like as weird as that sounds, like yeah, probably you could read something out pretty quickly, but like as soon as you see the color, you just know, right?
It's real life logic. If you see a red sign, it means stop, right? So
Yeah, it means some kind of warning or danger or caution, right? Okay, so I guess we can move on to our next subject, which is the music and the sound. I really liked the music from the first game, but I feel like they're really stepping it up with the second game as well, with more varied tracks.
Game is really good.
Oh yeah. Which anybody that's listening, if you want to just listen to the save room theme, I'll leave a iCard or a link down in the description for you guys to check that out. If you want to take a listen to the save room theme for Tormented Souls 2, it is really good. But yeah, like I really like the save room theme. I like a lot of the themes in the environment as well. Like Tormented Souls 1 had a lot of good music too. I just think that they're stepping it up with more varied tracks in 2. That's what it seems like, at least.
It definitely has a stronger emphasis on the atmosphere this time around, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I think like also just the when you pair that with just the sound cues of like everything that's happening in the background, like I think it really goes well.
Now, there's one thing though that I'm not sure how I feel. It's the standard sound design, like when you walk, shoot enemies, or whatever. It sounds almost the same how it is in the first game. Maybe I need to listen to it again with maybe with more surround sound because I didn't have my headphones on. But it didn't sound all that amazing,
I didn't particularly notice. I'd probably have to listen to it one more time. I felt as though it sounded pretty good though. But then again, I was also like trying to pay attention to like the music that was playing and also the other environmental sounds, right? So like when you're taking all of that into account and you're trying to focus on multiple things, it's kind of hard to like not pay attention to like the thing that you're probably going to hear the most, which is like how the sounds of like your walking and how you're like firing your gun and stuff like that go. Especially because you're going to be getting into a lot of combat, of course, right?
Yeah.
Did you also notice like when like Caroline is going into different areas, like the sound of the enemies like out in the distance too, when they're like trying to like move closer to you, like you can hear them getting like louder as they approach you?
Louder? Yeah. That's pretty cool. That's good audio feedback to know that the enemy is getting closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can plan for that, or quickly turn around and shoot them if necessary.
Yeah. Okay, is there anything else that we should talk about regarding music and sound, or?
No, it's fine. The music definitely a highlight from gameplay.
All right,
I just love how atmospheric it is.
Hmm. Okay, so I think we should get into like the overall gameplay and improvements, because that's where most of the stuff that we're going to be probably focused on here comes from, right? So what did you think of the gameplay?
Well, no, again, janky animations aside, because unfortunately that's still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I didn't notice that caught my eye. She can dodge now when aiming.
I believe you could still do that in the original game. I think that they improved the dodging though. Like it seems like it's faster and more responsive, because in the previous game you had the dodging. I didn't really make use of it. I had more instances where if I tried to make use of it, I would still get hit, so I never bothered. Which was a real pain in the ass, because you have at least in the first game, you have a trophy where you're supposed to not use any healing items. And that becomes a real pain in the ass when you can get easily hit by like the enemies that are mid to low level, basically, of Caroline. This game, it kind of seems a little bit different though, at least with enemies, so that also might be helping.
I didn't know the first game even had a dodge, so either that speaks for itself, or that's just my ignorance showing on that, right?
Mm.
But the fact that she just hopscotched out the way, the enemy actually wills, like, I like that. I hope that it's actually usable against all enemy types, and not just say that one type of, or at least that type of animation attack.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as long as it's consistent, I like it. I love it. Now, that being said, though, I'm surprised they're sticking with the nail gun gimmick for her. And could you just say it's iconic for the character now to have a nail gun?
Well, okay, to kind of play, like, I guess, devil's advocate, right? Like, the reason why I think they're probably sticking with that is that it kind of gives the series now, like, a unique identity, right? Because, like, every horror game has, like, some form of, like, gun, right? With a couple of exceptions here and there, right? But for the ones that feature combat specifically, they typically have some kind of firearm that's like based in reality. And I think like Tormented Souls, if you want to compare it to like another horror franchise, like let's say Dead Space, right? Dead Space, you use engineering tools, right? All of those weapons aren't really guns per se up until Dead Space 3. Well, technically you could say like the pulse rifle, right, in the series overall, but like most of the
No,
weapons
well,
that
I
like,
was
hmm?
yeah, like the flamethrower. That's obviously wouldn't be a mining weapon unless you doing some serious shit down there. I don't know what you mining with a flamethrower.
Yeah, don't question it. But like, I guess the point that I'm getting at is like, you know, with
They're not conventional weapons.
they're not very conventional weapons, right? So like Tormented Souls in the same vein, right? The first game you had like a cattle prod, a crowbar, the nail gun, a triple shot nail gun, and a pipe shotgun, like a homemade pipe shotgun, right? Um, which all those, you know, great weapons. I just wish that there were more. Um, which, to my understanding as well, there are supposed to be more weapons and possibly more conventional weapons on top of the weapons that we're more familiar with from the first game as well. Which, hey, I'm all for. Um, I kind of want to see maybe something similar to, um, I guess like the Resident Evil series, in the sense that, okay, like sometimes you find a different weapon, right? And that that weapon might have like higher crit chance, for example, but like less ammo, or faster fire rate, and more ammo but less damage, stuff like that, right? Where like there are pros and cons to using each weapon, right? Um, I guess from a more recent example, since I was just playing this, Conscript. Conscript has like a bunch of different weapons you can find and purchase from the merchant in that game, and all of them have their ups and downs with upgrades on top of that. So I guess that's what I really want to see out of like the gameplay. Because right now all we've seen is like, okay, here's the nail gun, and I don't know if it's just me or just because I've played so much of Tormented Souls 1, but it kind of came off like the nail gun got nerfed in this game. Like it feels a little bit weaker, like enemies are able to like really tank those shots. So I'm hoping that, you know, if the nail gun is not good in this game, maybe we'll have some more conventional stuff that will be good to make up for that.
Well, there's one thing that I do want.
Mhm.
Since we're in the South now, we need a conventional shotgun.
Yes.
I want my boomstick.
Yes. Well, and not only that,
Like,
I want to be able to load more than one shot into it. Like, look, I'm not saying single shot shotguns don't exist or anything like that. It just, look, I want to have more. More is fun.
if they want to be, if you want to be creative with it, let's shoot shrapnel out of it instead of slugs.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you know, like, if you want to be a little bit more controversial, maybe make a pipe shotgun that shoots 4 shots, reminiscent of a certain assassin's weapon. I mean, what? um, well, okay, but like, you know, jokes aside, yeah, you know what? The one thing we didn't talk about just yet with the gameplay, I like that there is a quick slot feature now for all of the items that you can equip. So you can just quickly select them off of the D-pad. I know that might be a little bit like mixed for some people in the sense that, like, some people I know for a fact did play Tormented Souls 1 using the D-pad to play play it like a traditional survival horror game. But to be fair, and this is just how I played that game personally, I thought it played perfectly fine with the analog stick. So I'd be totally fine with jumping into Tormented Souls 2, also playing that game with with the analog stick, and just having the D-pad be more for quickly selecting all the items that I want to use. But, you know, maybe they can have the option there as well to allow people who want to play it more traditionally with the D-pad, if that's even there. Um, but you know, oh, go on.
So if this game had more dynamic camera angles, then I think it would have been fine. But since it's fixed, maybe they should consider having it as an option to have D-pad control over analog. Because like there be situations where I'd much rather have the D-pad to move around freely, but in combat I always use the analog stick because better movement technically. Similar to how Resident Evil 0 and Remake 1 have it on modern platforms.
I could see that too. Yeah, like I think it just depends on how people want to play the game, right? Because like going off of your example too, like if we're going off of like the Resident Evil remake HD remaster, I pretty much played that game on a D-pad and tried to make it essentially identical to like PS1 controls with Type C with the Type C control scheme. But what I do is I also use the right analog stick because it doubles as a quick turn in that game. So instead of just doing back, I think it's back square in remake or back X, I just do the right analog stick. So it's less input on that. So I get where people are coming from, where they might want to have the option of both, or even just just being able to play on the D-pad strictly because they prefer it or it just feels more comfortable. Like I said, personally, I felt fine with it in Tormented Souls 1, even though I typically do prefer playing on D-pad with most survival horror games. But I did think that was an interesting change because you do have like you have 5 total quick slots. I'm wondering though how useful that 5th one is going to be though, because if Tormented Souls 2 is anything like the first game, we're going to get a flashlight at some point in the game, and then that lighter becomes pretty much useless until we get to certain puzzles, right? So like what is that 5th slot going to take up then if we don't really need the lighter anymore?
Good question. Like, might be a utility slot or there's another weapon slot. Who knows?
And also too, no crowbar, but a hammer for a melee weapon. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's not just a melee weapon, but also a utility tool. I mean, that's what a hammer is, right? But like, you can break open like vases now, and they'll sometimes have items in them. I thought that was cool. So we're kind of going more in the like RE4 direction, which I know some people might feel really mixed about, but I think this could be done very well too if the items are very limited and spaced out, and they could constantly blue ball you and just leave 0 items in the vases, or have them completely randomized in the vases, right?
I'm so like RE4.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think they could balance that one out. So I think it's really cool addition though. So
if we're going to have so many item slots, whatever, right? I imagine like you probably want to need some extra stuff to carry around all the time. So like I don't care. I don't mind it.
Yeah. Actually, since you brought up animations earlier too, how did you feel about her overall like movement animations, and do you feel like they've changed much from the first game?
I'd say she animates more human-like. Like she looks, like a woman walking. I should say, rather than like a robot. She was pretty damn stiff in the first game.
I mean, I don't know. Like she had hip sway in the first game, which like I remember.
Did, but I feel like her movement here is a bit more natural, just a little bit.
Yeah, because I remember when I played the first one in a Discord call, and I was streaming it, and like Arian dropped by, and he started watching me play, and he was like, wow, they like, it's like the movement animation looks really good on this character. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I was actually really impressed. This is like a first time dev and everything. So like, you know, I mean, if it looks good, right, even for like a first time developer, right, like I can only hope that it gets better with time, even if that was not good per se, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
overall, I like the movement animation. It's fine.
hmm. But yeah, like oh, and there weren't really puzzles in this demo, but there were just like quick things to solve, I guess. I guess you could call them puzzles, but they were more like, oh, here are these quick obstacles to solve. Like, oh, open up this book um, with the thumbtack, or like uh,
Bolt cutters.
bolt cutters for the cage on the guy's stomach, and like the handsaw for the frozen hand corpse hand, or and then also
Wasn't there?
setting that on fire. Like,
Yeah, wasn't there one that involved a lighter?
uh you know what, I don't remember. Or are we talking about like for the first one?
For no, for the demo we saw for two. Yeah, I thought I saw her use a lighter for one of the puzzles. Might be mistaken. Might be just her holding it. Nothing special about it.
Yeah, I thought it was just her just holding it, but I might have to go rewatch it. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I thought it was interesting, although I'm a little concerned about I'm concerned about like how, like, okay, every time you need to like combine something, you have to examine it. If I remember, you had to do that, but it wasn't very often in the first one, where there were maybe like, if at all, like there were like a couple instances maybe that they showed that off in the demo, because you have to put together your nail gun. Or at least it seems like that's the case, where you have to put it together to get the air compressor for it to even be able to function, it seems like. And I understand why they did it. It's just to kind of show off the like assets and texture work and stuff like that, and the models for all the items and stuff. But I could also see that being to the game's detriment for like speed running and stuff, especially if that's going to be a trophy again.
Yeah, I truly hope they do away with that, because like I would love I like the idea of, if I know what I'm doing with this item, I need to look at it every damn time to do something with it. Because
Yeah.
weren't we? Wasn't we criticizing Silent Hill 2 for that? Where every time you pick up an item, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And that could be like irritating.
Yeah, and I was criticizing that, which, you know, funny enough, and I'll talk about Silent Hill 2 in a separate video, of course, but like the recent gameplay, they like showed more, and it's kind of unclear if every time you pick up health items you have to inspect those or not, because it seems like that's the case, but every time you pick up ammo, it doesn't, which is like a weird, like, okay, like why is that the case for everything else but not for ammo? Because I mentioned like that's, at least in Tormented Souls 2, everything like is paused in the background, so you don't have to worry about it, but like in that game's case it's a little bit different. So, but we're not here to talk about that game. So I feel like it may be more detrimental for like speedrunning purposes, but I understand why they do it. So it's not ideal. I hope I could turn that off, or, you know, go into the settings and at least do away with some of those things, but we'll see. Is there any other gameplay or improvements that we should talk about before moving on to just our overall hopes and concerns and overall thoughts?
No, not at all. Actually, this one thing I want to bring up though, but it actually goes technically back to visuals and whatnot. Is actually the character's design. How you feel about her new look?
Okay, so I like it. Um, but I weirdly enough, I kind of dug it when she was wearing like the skirt and the leather jacket over the trench coat in this game, just because I feel like it kind of gave more like uh, visual like
Uniqueness.
yeah,
Honestly,
like
that's how I will put it.
yeah, like that's how I would put it, like because like the way that the character moved in the first game, it looked so like unique for a horror game, because like most horror, like I would say most horror games, right, when they feature like a female protagonist and they do wear like something like that, it's usually like, okay, the clothing is very much like static, right?
Shorts. Yeah, static is like shorts, you wear jeans, whatever, right?
Yeah, so like I
Yeah,
thought it
I like.
was a very unique like visual aspect to the character, right? um that's not to like dismiss this new design at all. Like I think the new design is cool, at least. Very much like the alternate costume that was featured in Tormented Souls 1, once they patched it in. Um,
Yeah,
I just, because the scarf, you know, like, because they brought over the scarf with this design. So it's like I guess that was like a carryover from that. Um, I guess the only thing I could hope for with that is, hey, maybe more alternate costumes, maybe the costumes from the first game as well, on top of like new and original ones.
yeah. For me though, I do think it looks fine. I think it looks great. Don't get me wrong, like she
Mm-hmm.
still looks good, especially with her eye patch and her, I guess her hair color change because her hair looks more brighter this time compared to the first game. I just think that her design was so peak in the first one, it's kind of hard to top it. Like I am a sucker for the design of wearing a dress with a jacket over it, like that short jacket,
Mm-hmm.
like like in Tekken 8, Dina Williams. I love that design for her, like wearing a jacket over her dress.
Yeah,
But I don't think the new design doesn't capture the same essence of what the first one did. Can't quite fully articulate it though, but I truly believe that the first design makes her not stand out more, and also I guess shows off her character more, if that makes sense.
yeah, like okay, I think I know what you're saying. It's like her design in the first game, uh, for her default costume, her her design is very much like akin to her personality, right? And so it's
Yeah.
like you kind of get a bit of her personality through the way that she dresses, right? So it feels a little bit more like believable and realistic, right?
Whereas with this one, it feels like the outfit is supposed to match the environment more so just her being her.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that. Um, yeah, like yeah, I can definitely like see that point. I don't know if they could really top that first one, but then again, they could always introduce some like really cool like alternate costumes as well, which would be nice to see, I think. Um, I will say though, I do dig the eye patch. I like that it's not just, bandages like in the first game, and I think that they could definitely like play along with that too, like to give her like different styles of costumes and different styles of eye patches, maybe if they do decide to add in like a bunch of if they're not already in the game, right? Like alternate costumes. I could see them like doing like some joke ones, like here's like a pirate costume just for the fun of it, right? um, and then maybe like some more like serious ones, or more like cool ones that are like more in line with what the game's tone and like genre is, I guess.
Mhm.
So yeah, it again, I don't want to like make it sound like I'm downplaying the design for this one. It's not bad per se. Like I do feel like they are trying to like carry over some visual aspects, like with the scarf, for example, is very much like the alternate costume for Tormented Souls 1. I just also think that like kind of like what you said, it doesn't hit the same like the first one.
And also, as I said, like her first design was so peak that it's also hard to top it. Like along with what I just also mentioned, like you just said, but it's such a good design. Like he can't beat it that easily.
Yeah. To be fair though, this design could also grow on us, right? So like we might end up like really liking it by the time like we actually get to play a demo and play the full game and stuff like that, right? So
yeah, maybe if we get like a full render, maybe my opinion would change if I get a better look at it versus seeing it from the gameplay, because the characters move all the time, so it's kind of hard to see every detail. But ultimately, though, like
yeah, I was gonna say true because we're also a lot of the environments that we're in are very dark, so you don't really get a good look of it.
Yep, that's it. I don't think it's bad. It will probably will grow on me though, but right now I'm cementing myself on her first game design is my favorite. So
yeah. So I guess we can move on to our hopes and concerns and just overall thoughts then. What I'm really hopeful for is that like they've only said that okay, hey, we're gonna get more bosses, we're gonna get more weapons, right? I just hope that we get to see that soon. I don't want them to spoil everything, right? But I do want to see like just a nod or like just a touch of that shown off in the gameplay to like really like in the future when they do hopefully release more, right? Just to kind of see that okay, like what they're saying is definitely going to happen, because right now we're just going off of word, like off of their word, right? So I'd like to see that because that's what I'm really hopeful for. I want to see like better weapons and more powerful weapons, because right now my concern is like the nail gun that's in the game seems a little bit too weak. I feel like if you compare it to the first game, like the first game's nail gun, like it was pretty decent, and especially like when you get the triple shot nail gun, like that one's also better. So like I'm just hoping that there is a not for your new game run, not an overpowered weapon, right, but just a weapon that just feels balanced enough to where it's not too weak but not too overpowering, right, just to make it seem fair and challenging, right? As far as like enemies are concerned, well, we haven't really seen much of the enemies. There's only like 2 enemy types that show up in the demo. So I'm just hoping that we get to see more, because like there weren't too many enemies in Tormented Souls 1. And to be fair, that kind of makes sense for a first time like indie dev game, but I think that if more gameplay comes out in the future, I'd like to see just how much variety the enemies have gotten compared to the first game. And how many more enemies are in the game. Because I would like to see that expand, because that's also something that I'm a little bit interested in and hopeful for. But what about you, Brandon?
as far as seeing more gameplay or enemy types, yeah, yes. Okay, if they don't have a big pool of enemies, at least I hope they make what they have in the game a bit more interesting. To fight. Like just more variety of like say moves or whatever, or maybe fight more than one enemy at a time. Because I think that's kind of like the status quo with this series right now. Fight one enemy in one room at a time versus 2.
Yeah, typically you don't fight. Like you can run into rooms where there might be multiple enemies, but it's very rare. Like at maximum, I think there would be like maybe 2 or 3, but they're pretty like distanced out. So it's not like you're constantly just fighting like multiple enemies at once. It was very much designed around, okay, you're typically just gonna fight one at a time.
Right.
So I do think that that would also be pretty interesting though if they changed up the gameplay, make it a little bit more hectic like that. But I wonder how much more frustrating that would be too, because that would also be kind of concerning.
True. If the characters have built around holding more than 1 or 2 enemies, then I can see it being irritating.
You know, actually, what I'm also like interested in and slightly concerned about is how they're going to handle the story for this game, because it's going off of that cured ending, right? Which, how are they going to continue the story from that perspective, right? And like how much of that ending is going to impact the overall story for Tormented Souls 2, like if it even ties in at all. Because it might not really, outside of the fact that, okay, like you saved your sister in the first game, and in this one she's sick and you're just trying to find out what's causing her to be sick, right? But we don't know how much of an impact that ending from the first one has, right? We just know that, okay, like your family had some like ties to a cult, right? And like they were doing some really weird shit at that hospital, Gramps. But you know, we don't know how far they're gonna take that, right? Like, is this going to like really strongly tie into the first one's story and overall lore and build upon that, or is it just going to kind of treat this as like, yeah, like if you've played the first one, you've gotten the cured ending, you understand what happened in that ending, that's all you need to know, but really that's like surface level stuff for what you're going into for this sequel, right? Where you could potentially play it without ever having to play the first one, right?
Yeah. Actually, I got point to bring up. Do you think they will how put censor the game, or at least tone down some of the more risky elements, or would
The
they
nudity?
double up on it? Yeah.
Oh, I hope they double up on it. As okay, so I hope they double up on it, but I'm saying that more so like they double up on like more so like the gore and stuff like that, and just the overall like horror elements, right? Um, for like the more risque elements like nudity, like I mean I don't necessarily think they should shy away from it per se. Like it's supposed to be an M-rated game, right? So I think it's fair to bring in something like that if it makes sense in the context of the story, right? Which I'm sure they could have it make sense, right? It's just a matter of like, okay, let's just see how that plays out, right? Actually, I have a like kind of follow-up question, like, because Caroline was supposed to go back with her sister to find their mom, because you remember, like, their dad is dead and their mom is well, MIA, right? So like nobody really knows what happened to her. Do you think that like maybe they'll kind of like go back to that story bit, or do you think that's just going to be forgotten?
I think honestly it might be too soon to tell on that, but I do hope they follow up on it though, since it is the actual ending of the canon ending of the series, right? So they should continue that story beat. If anything, I expect the mom to be some form of antagonist or supporting role or plot device thing to move the plot forward for the character or characters if sisters in the game.
Okay. Yeah, because like I get the impression that if they do bring that character back, that there's going to be some kind of plot twist to that where maybe she is the cause of the problems that are occurring in the second game by virtue of she's thinking that both of her daughters are dead due to, you know, the grandpa being really heavily involved in this fucking cult trying to birth a god. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that sounds familiar.
So I can kind of see that angle, but I could also maybe see the possibility of them going like, okay, well, we didn't really feel like making any like continuation to that story point, so we're just gonna explain it as, okay, they tried before like the events of the game happen, and it just wasn't possible, so that's why they couldn't, right? And maybe that'll lead into some different plot elements or plot points for Tormented Souls 2, but you know, that's again kind of like a remain to be seen when we get more information and more details on the story.
Right.
So
yeah, as far as story and narrative, I got not much to add on it. It's like I said, it's too soon to tell on what could we expect.
yeah, because there really isn't much story to go on off of the outside of what is on the Steam page for the game. So
Yeah.
so it's literally, hey, your sister is sick, go to South America, find out what's causing this issue, right? I'm really interested to find out. I really enjoyed Tormented Souls 1. Outside of like just the story elements and some of the gameplay that seems maybe a little bit like, okay, like maybe they should work on it. Keep in mind it's still an alpha, right? I ultimately I just want Tormented Souls 1 but better. That's all I'm asking for. I really enjoyed that game, so I'm really hoping that 2 is just going to be more of what I enjoyed but better.
Yeah, agree.
So, that being all said, any final overall thoughts that you want to get out there before we wrap up and just do outros here?
Yeah, I'd say overall, I'm impressed with it, and I would just like to see more of it. We don't have a release date, right? So I
No,
guess
just
the
a
time
release
frame is
window.
2025.
Yeah, just the release window. Yep.
But I do hope we get a demo of some kind, particularly on consoles, because I'm not sure if this game will run on my computer right now. Dude. But like, hey,
I can pull up the
developers, if
specs
listening,
for you, like, cause hold on, like the specs are on Steam right now. So recommended is a i5 7600, 8 gigs of RAM with a GTX 1660 6 gig card.
what's the minimum?
Minimum is i3 2100 with 8 gigs of RAM and a GeForce GTS 450. So you're basically in
Yeah,
the middle ground
that's it.
here. You're fine. Yeah, because minimum is you have a fucking graphics card that has 1 gigabyte of VRAM. Okay, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I like to see it at the max capacity as possible, I guess, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, with that in mind, though, yeah, I do hope we get a demo. Like, if developers, if you're listening, you know, be happy, you know, playtest, give feedback. Just saying, like, we like the first game a lot.
Yeah, I'm absolutely open to trying out a demo if it's possible. Like, and not just hey, let's get exclusive hands-on to this demo. Although I'm not complaining if you do give me hands-on, but more so just like I hope there is a demo that comes out soon, that kind of gives us just a taste of what we can expect, different from what was shown from the IGN gameplay, I think, so that way it doesn't feel like, okay, we're just going through the demo that was just posted. But maybe not too dissimilar from it, so that way it's not like spoiler heavy, I guess, you know? So yeah, a demo would be fine. But outside of that, I think we're good for outros. So Brandel, where can we find you, good sir?
Find me in my bat cave. That's good. You can find me on Twitter or X, Shitter, whatever you want to call it. You can find me there at ImmortalBrandel. My link tree is in my bio. You can see my other affiliations and associations. Maybe OnlyFans. I'm joking about it. That's a joke. It's just a meme now. But yeah, you can catch my link tree. You can see my other affiliations and associates, and yeah.
While he's selling fans at his shop known as OnlyFans, you can find me at BioDevil_Dom on Twitter, YouTube, anywhere else pretty much, except for I think Reddit, because Reddit won't let me change it. And yeah, I'll have a link tree too where you can just find me on everything as well. But otherwise, just expect some more stuff, because I'm going to be talking about Silent Hill 2's gameplay soon. I just have to work out a day and time with Captain Chaos, because I was planning on talking about it with him. And we'll see you there. But until then, we hope you all enjoyed, and we'll see you on the next one. So, bye.